We are into our week 4 of React. So let's start looking what all is in the week 4. As I already mentioned, week 4 is pretty simple, pretty lightweight. I think week 3 was like a very tough part because we dwelled into what use effect were, what we could do with the dependency array, what was effect cleanups, what was tail closures, all stuff like that. That was the hairy part of React. This part is still particularly easy. We have two things. We have context API and we have client-side routing. And we're going to look at both of them in this video. I'm going to probably combine or going to do two separate, but let's see. We're going to build one single app that includes both routing and a context API demo. So what is routing and what is React Router? So to see what routing is essentially, a route is this part of your URL. Basically, this is your main website and everything after the slash is the part of the URL. So let's see what happens when we navigate through different pages of GitHub. I'm going to open my console and I'm going to look at the activity tab. I'm going to clear everything. And let's just start from the fresh page of github.com. I am on XHR tab, but I don't want to look. I want to look at all the network requests. So when we first went to the application, when we first went to github.com, we got this. Let me see if I can show the full name correctly. No. So we went to github.com and that's our github.com and it's sending us a document. If we look at the response, we are getting this HTML website from it. We are getting a lot of HTML text that gets rendered by the browser, and you can see the type is document. Let's say I went to one specific person's profile from this, and let me just randomly pick a profile. Let's say we went to this route. Now notice the URL here changes to /reso, that's the username. And if I again look in my network tab, I have this HTML document coming of /reso, basically github.com/reso, and it's again a lot of HTML coming from the server. Now what happens is if you closely look, this page, and let me make a duplicate of this page and just simply go back on github.com, has a couple of things in common. The basic style sheets are pretty much common because it's one website. That is one thing. If you look at these different bars, the navigation bar, that is pretty common. Let's say if you go to one repository and another repository, and let me just open two parallel repositories. This is not part of GitHub. Okay, so this repository looks pretty much design-wise as this repository. Even like this part is quite the same as here, but each time we are going to a different page, we are getting a lot of HTML back as we saw here. Even now, we can go to one of these, let's say, this fold lang repository. And if I go and look, I hit the URL of /fold, so it'll show github.com/fold lang/fold, and I'll have this lot of HTML coming again. Now, the one problem is since we are sharing so many things between the design of the repositories or each user profile, getting the HTML again and again is a lot of work for the browser. The browser has to go parse the HTML, it has to start rendering the HTML, even though most of it is exactly the same. But this is basically traditional routing. In traditional routing, a server is on the backend, for example, your Node server, and from the server, you can start sending HTML. So remember when you did Node, you did something like app dot, I completely forgot how nodes work, but app, let's say it was something like app.get, and then you start writing an endpoint and you do a, the endpoint has to be a string. So let's say it was first slash, and then you do have a request and response object. And in the end, you can send something like response.send. And inside of here, we are actually sending some HTML, let's say. So let me send a div hello. And similarly, you'll have another route. For example, that was somebody's user profile. So that was like /rezo. And inside of this, there's another HTML. And this is how basically traditional routing work. When you go to one page, the server reads the URL that you have sent and then sends a HTML. If you go to another page, the server reads the URL again and sends you another sort of an HTML. This sort of routing has been working well for us, but again, as I just mentioned, that this sort of routing is very heavy for the browser because the browser has to keep getting the HTML, keep rendering all the HTML over and over again, even though it looks pretty similar. Now comes the interesting part, that when we are in the world of React, and let me just show you, let's go to, let's say, React's documentation. I think React's documentation website is made in React. Let's see if it does that, what I'm looking for. So see, I changed the route from, let's say I was on docs before, and then I went to this tutorial. So the whole route changed. We were first at docs/getting-started.html, and from the tutorial route, we are at tutorial/tutorial.html. And if you see, there is no document being downloaded in this. And this is what React is doing. Instead, React doesn't work with HTML per se. It renders HTML out. So in that case, it has more control over how it wants to render the HTML. So the server from the backend can just send the data, and React can choose what HTML to render according to that data. The server doesn't have to necessarily send HTML each and every time. Instead, it'll just send data, and React can choose just on the client side what to do with that data, how to show it, how to render it, what sort of HTML output has to come out of it. Which means that if our 90% of the website is same, or like a lot part is same, for example, this doc and tutorial have pretty similar style. They have the same sidebar. If you look at the both, the content inside is different, of course. If you look at the top bar, it's pretty much the same. And thus React website feels a lot faster than, let's say, going to github.com. Why? Because again, for github.com, the server is sending HTML over and over again for each page that we are viewing, and it feels pretty slow because the browser has to pass the HTML, render the HTML, do the styles and everything. Whereas React, when it first loads, it set up the React, and now it just works with data. So the server will keep sending different sort of data. We have once bit of HTML rendered, and the next time React will start doing its own rendering, which is pretty fast just on the client side. So now the question is, how are we achieving this with React? Like, how is this website being so fast compared to a normal website like github.com, which doesn't run on React? And for this comes React Router. So I'm just going to open the web page of React Router. So again, even if you look at React Router, it initially took a while to load, but once it has loaded, we can quickly jump around to different pages. Most of the style is pretty same. You can see the URL is completely changing when I'm jumping on different pages. But since the content is mostly same, React is just getting data from the server and just rendering it differently. Now we can actually start seeing how to do this on our own. So I'm going to open Code Sandbox and add a dependency of React Router DOM. I think I have already added, but let me just go back and again put it in. I'll put React Router DOM. React DOM is relative to React. I'm getting some sort of an error. React DOM was missing for some reason. Could not fetch React DOM. Okay, now this is working. So I have added React Router Tom. I hope you have read the React routers documentation as I posted this early afternoon. But if not, then let's see what is React Router. So React Router is a set of libraries which defines a core router, a web router, and a native router. The native router is something called React Native. I can show it quickly what React Native is. React Native is essentially exactly like React, but it runs mobile applications and it uses real mobile components to render out the data. The difference here is simply that we still have a function component, but look, instead of divs and paragraph tags, we have like views and text and headers and stuff like that. These are already pre-built components that map to Android and iOS versions respectively. And in mobile app also, you can tap on different places and open new screens. That's why React Router has a native router as well. But we're going to be sticking to only web development. So we're going to be sticking to React Router Web. Uh, the installation instruction says that basically we should go and install React Router, and let's try to make a simple application out of it. So since we do not have any server to do routing, but we can still do routing in just client side, as we saw with the React website and also React Router website and a lot of other websites just do client side routing. And with client side routing, what we can do is we can show different components on different URLs. And this is exactly what the React website is doing. On the docs page, it's showing the doc component, which has a lot of text in it. The tutorials page, they are showing the tutorial component, the blog page, the blog component, and so on. And I think some people even ask this during the homework, that there are 3 different assignments in the homework. How do we submit the homework? Should we make 3 different apps? No, you can just use React Router or any routing library for client side or specifically for React, and show 3 different components on the same app, give 3 different links, and we can navigate through all 3 components. So let's try to just do that. I want to make 2 or 3 different components, and I'm going to make like pretty simple, straightforward components. Let's make a home page for our website. So I'll make a home component. Again, these components could be anything. These are simple function components. They can carry state, use effect, blah, 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 whatever you want to use. All of that would still be available. I am just going to simply return a div from this. And I just realized my emit syntax is not really working, but let's go forward with it. And from the home page, I can just give the title home. I am going to copy it over and over. And let's say after home, we can also have an about us page. So I'm going to just write it as about. And let's say the third page could be on contact. That's what you get to see on a typical website: home, about, and contact. And I'm going to just follow that. And inside of this, I can just return a string contact. So if I try to go and render this component inside of the app, let me just remove the code. I'm going to do something like this. And I can see the home component being rendered, right? It just says home in here. If you can't see, I can just zoom up and show you. But it just says home in here. If I wanted to render the about component, I can just do this. And it'll say about. If I want to render the contacts component, I can just replace it with the about component right there. And now we have contacts on the page. But we don't want to keep manually switching when somebody wants it. We want users to control it. We want users to have, let's say, 3 links. And if you click on that link, you go to a different page. And that's simply as a basic HTML link works, right? I click on this thing, this is an A link, and I go to a different page. I can go and inspect here that this is definitely an A link. So I go inspect element. I see that this is an A link with an href of /Christianok. And if I click on that, I'll go to /Christianok. And we want something similar sort of a behavior, or something as similar to the React's website when I click on the docs link, which I hope again is a link. Let me see. Yes, this is a link which goes to docs/gettingstarted.html. Similarly, if I click on the tutorial, this is again a link, and I go to this different component. So somehow we want to have those three different links so that we can navigate through all three components and we can show them one by one on the page. And for this comes in React Router. So I'm going to just go look at the documentation. And it says that we should be making three links for our three different pages, and then have a router set up. And all of this should be inside a router. So let me start getting the dependencies from React Router DOM. And I'm going to just copy them, but I'll explain. The React Router DOM gives you a browser router, since it works in the DOM inside the browser. And again, this is React Router DOM because there is React Router Native, which works for iOS and Android. And that has a native router or something. So I'm just, this is a syntax to just rename your imports. So I'm saying import browser router, but when you're importing it, call it just simply router, because I'm working only in the browser and it just makes sense to call it a router. We're getting a switch component that I'll explain later. There's a route component, and this is basically our mapping to which endpoint will map to which component. And then there's the link component, which will help us to click and navigate through different pages. So let's start making the router. Our main application should always be inside the router. So I'm going to just make the router as the main layer. So I just took a pause to try to make Emmet work, the thing that makes JSX brackets while I press tab, but apparently that is not working. So anyway, we can still continue with our router. So inside of the router, let's go back to the React Router's documentation. Inside of the router, we need to describe separate routes. Let's avoid the switch for a while, and let's look at what route component does. Then again, this route component is coming from React Router DOM. In the route component, we can give a path and a component. The path specifies which URL we are going to visit and what component are we going to show there. So let me just try to write that. If I do a route, nope, no auto completion happening. Let's say I give a route, and let me give a path equal to /home. Or let's just give / for home, because home should be our main root path of our application. So I do /home. On / I want to just show home. If I go on, let's say /about, I want to show the about component. And similarly, when I go to, let's say /contact, I want to show the contact component. Now let me try to refresh the page. Now I'm able to see the / component already. Because I am on / and I can see this home component being rendered, and nothing else, none of the other components are being rendered at the moment. But since we are on /, we can only even now start seeing what is happening, that because this URL is just /, we are having the home component being rendered. The next step would be to start making links so that a user can navigate through different routes. So I'm just going to make a div in here. And inside of this div, I'm going to put 3 li tags. Since my browser is not really behaving well, I'm just going to copy paste them. Let's say we make the first link to home and we give it a name home, and we give the link as slash. So let me try rendering it again properly. You should not be using link outside the router. Our router component should be wrapping the whole application. So that's a good error, and React is telling us what to do. So our link should only be can only work inside this router component. Otherwise, this link component really doesn't work because it doesn't know anything about which route to go to. What I'm going to just simply do is wrap the whole application in the router. It really doesn't matter for us, and since we could do that, I can also go and remove this div, but let's just keep it. So now I have this one link for home, and since we are already at home, it really doesn't matter. If I click on it, it'll just go to slash, and slash is already being rendered here. Let me make just one more, and let's call it for about. So I'm just going to call it about, and this URL should particularly match this particular URL so that you're able to render this component. This is just plain text, whatever you want to call. I can just even call it link to go to about page, and it'll come out like that. But this particular URL has to match this URL so that you can render this component. Let's see if this works. Now, if I go to this about page, I can see about now. So let me just give it more descriptive. Hi from about page. Hello from home page. And last one, yeah, from, oh, why does this get an exclamation? No exclamation. From contacts page. Right, so now if we see, we are on slash about. If you can't see, let me just zoom in for a while. And we are on the slash about page. If I go to if I click on the home, I go to just the slash URL, which is rendering hello from home page. Why is it rendering hello from home page? Because it's trying to render this component. Since the slash matches this route, it's trying to match this component. And the home component just has a div which says hello from home page. Now, if I click on the about page, you can see that the route has changed. Let me show that again. If I click on the about page, the route has changed to slash about, and we have this hi from about page. And if I go and look down here, it'll say hi from the about page. But notice that we are still rendering the home page. Let's see if this thing keeps happening. Let's say if I make one more link, and if I put this link for slash contact, again, this has to match this particular URL so that we can render the contact page. And I'll say just link to contact page. So now we are on the about page. If I go to contacts, we are on contacts page. The about page went away, which is nice because we do not want to show the about page. We just want to show the contacts page. But again, this home page is still sticking there. If I go on home, it's still there. If I go on about, it is still there. If I go on contacts, it is still there, which is pretty odd. Like this page is keep on persisting. Let's see what could be the issue for this. Oh wow, my browser just zoomed extremely in. Let me see how I can fix that. Okay, my browser zoom is a bit fixed. So we could see that whichever page I go, no matter, the contacts and the links are changing accordingly, but this home page always remain there. Let's say we gave the home a different URL. Instead of slash, we gave home a slash home. And here also we gave slash home, right? Because this always has to match this so that you can render the component what you want to render. Let me refresh and let me go on slash home. So my current URL is slash home, which means that it will render this path slash home, which will render the home component. If I go to about, there is no home component now. There is only about page. If I go on contacts, there is no home or there is no about, and it's only contacts, right? So we sort of fixed that problem. But now if I go on slash, there is nothing rendering. Why? Because we do not have any component that matches that URL part. And thus we won't have any component being rendered just on slash. Let me see if the video is recording. It is. So we are starting to get a sense of what our problem is. Essentially, if we have each route completely different, like slash home, slash about, slash contact, then they render one by one. But now we don't have anything rendering at slash, and we do want to render at slash, we do want to render home. So let me see if we can still do this. Now at slash, because we just left it, we can render home, but then it is coming on every other component. And why is that happening? It is because this slash, when we go to slash about, it is matching both of these paths, because slash about also matches this, and it also matches just the slash. So if you have any sub route, it will also render that sub route and also render that full route. Since slash about is a sub route of slash, a sub route is something like this. If let's say the contacts path was slash about slash hello, and let me slash about slash contact, let me just call that, and let me put that on the link as well. Slash about slash contact. Now if I go on the home page, I will have both. I'll have just it. The URL is just slash, so it matches this URL and it goes on the home page. If I click on the about page, now slash about. Let me just do this correct. Now the slash about is a subroute of slash. Slash about is a subroute of this just slash, so this component is rendering the home component, as well as the slash about page is rendering, which is just the about page. Now it'll make more sense if we go on contacts, which will be slash about slash contacts. Slash about slash contacts will render the contact page as well as the slash about page, because it's a subroute of it. So let's see, if I go to slash contacts, now it is rendering all three, because slash about slash contacts is a subroute of slash and also a subroute of slash about. Let's just restore and go back to our main problem. So now contact is a path of its own. It is not a path of the about subroute. So it can render on its own. But still, slash about will always be a subroute of slash, and to fix that is where we use something called switch. Right now, as I said, the paths try to match at all possible routes. So even this will, for slash about, even this will match and this will match because it's a subroute. If I use a switch, it will guarantee me that only one route will supposed to match, and whichever matches more properly. So I'll go and put a switch and wrap all my routes inside of a switch. So let's see, if I go on home now, I can show in the URL. If I go on slash home now, I just see the home. If I go on about, I'm again seeing just home. If I go on contacts, I'm again just seeing the home. So there's something again clearly wrong. Switch did not really fix it. And what is happening is basically switch is trying to make the first guess what it is going to match. Slash contacts matches slash. Switch decides, oh, this is it. I found a matching route. I'm going to just show home. Rest, I don't care. When we go to slash about, the route says, oh, I found the slash, which matches the slash about as a subroute. I'm going to just show home. I'm not going to care about anything else. Well, this made our problem sort of even worse, right? Earlier, at least, we were able to see the About page and the Contacts page, even with the Home page on top of it, but we were still able to see it. Now, it is just matching to one route, and whichever comes first, and Home comes here first because it has just slash as a route. What we can go and say that this has to exactly match this route. So now, if we say exact on both of these, and let's refresh and see. If I go on home, I see the home page. Oh, sorry, the exact has to be on this one as well. Now, if I go on home, oh, okay, so now my browser was giving me issues, but now I think it's working and I'm also recording perfect. We made a mistake in here. It's going to be exact, and that was a typo. So now just refresh and see. We just gave the slash to say when it is exactly slash, then only match it. Otherwise, if you find slash about, go to slash about. If you find slash contact, go to slash contact. But when you find exactly slash, only then match it to the home route. So let's say if I go on just slash, which is clicking on home, I see the home page. If I click about, I'm now seeing the about page. If I click on contact, now I'm seeing just the contact page. And this is exactly what we wanted to have from the very beginning. So this took a little bit of a setup, but I think as we walked through, we saw if we weren't using switch and we did not have exact, we would render all these subroutes. Since slash is always a subroute for slash about and slash contact, it is always getting rendered. Putting in switch also doesn't. Putting in switch helps because it only chooses one route to render. But again, since these all routes are subroutes of slash, it gets matched first. And that's why we can go and say exact in it, which will only match slash when we exactly have slash. And otherwise, it will go on finding the next best route it could match. Which comes to a fun question. Let's say if I had here, let's say foo. Well, now it is not rendering anything. And let's say we wanted to match something like foo or bar or whatever case comes for a page that we do not have any route. How do we show user something that for any page that doesn't matches any of our given routes already? Oh shit, my browser is again misbehaving. Let me see if I can fix it. Okay. Let's make one more page here, and I'm gonna just call it const page not found. And page not found is gonna just simply return sorry, the page was not found. So how do we render this page not found? We want to match or any other path that happens. It could be any complex path. It could be, let's say, foo slash bar, and it should still render the page about page not found. So we can go simply add another route. The path for this route will be star. And for this, I'm going to put page not found in. So let's say if I go to home, if I go to home, which is my slash, I can see the home route. If I go to slash about, I can see the about route. If I go to contact, I can see the contact. And let's say if I go to anything arbitrary, I click on my, I put it in my route. I say, sorry, the page was not found. Page Q was not found. I need to fix that, but let's go and see. Page was not found. Perfect. It just says now page was not found on any route, and it could be as big of a route we can think of. I will still show because we just said path is equal to star. Let's try to fix one more thing. All these pages map to their routes properly. If we have slash home, I would want to have home also be accessible from slash home. So let's say going to home means going to slash home, right? So if I go on slash home now, I can see this home page, similarly for about and contact, because I went and said that my home route should match slash home, and my link also says slash home. But now if I go on just slash, I still want to show the home page and not the page not found, because my slash page is the home page, but I also wanted to have a URL of slash. Um, I can also just go and remove the exact from here because it doesn't matter really now, since we all have 3 different URLs. But the crux of the problem is I still want to have this slash route going to slash home instead. And for that, we can start using the redirect. So here I can go and copy this route and make another route, and I'm going to put as slash, and my slash exact will be home. So now if I'm at home, I'm just seeing home. If I'm at contact, if I'm seeing contact, if I'm at about, I'm only seeing about. Let me just zoom in for a bit. If I go on slash, I'm seeing the home page, but the router still remains at just slash, right? It doesn't go to the home page exactly like this one. It just remains at slash and it still renders the home page. Why? Because we told it to do it twice, right? At slash exactly, we want to do home, and at home, we want to also do home. So can we have a simpler way of doing this? And yes, we can start using redirect. So instead of this, I'm going to say redirect, and redirect takes a 2, and the 2 is equal to slash home. So now we are saying that on slash home, go to the home route, slash about, go to the about route. But when you find exactly just slash, go to this home route. I'm not putting the route, but I'm saying go to that route. I'm not putting the component, but I'm saying go to that route rather than just putting a component. So let's see that in action. If I am at the URL of slash home, I'm at the home. If I go at slash about, I'm at about. Contacts, I'm at contacts. And if I just go on and I'm pressing enter here, it will automatically redirect me to slash home. There was nothing. I just pressed an enter. It automatically took me to slash home. I'm just going to do backspace, click enter, it takes me to home. How is this happening? Instead of rendering a component, I'm saying redirect to another component.